Hello. This is Slow Night Sleepy Stories. Have you ever waited for a moment that seemed like it would never come? Tonight, we share the story of an old sage who spent 10 long years sitting by the river, fishing not for fish, but for his destiny. With a straight hook and no bait, he simply trusted the flow of time. Now close your eyes and imagine yourself sitting beside him on the quiet banks of the river Wei. Let the gentle sound of the water wash away your rush and anxiety. There is no need to hurry tonight. Just breathe and let the current take you to a deep sleep. To speak of the story, at the end of the Shang dynasty, in the land of Heiju in the East Sea, there was a wise man. His surname was Jiang, his name was Sang, and his style name was Ziya. His alias was Taegong. He had a great capacity from an early age, so he lived in the mountains and devoted himself to his studies. When a Taoist came and said to Ziya, "I am the primeval Lord of Heaven from the Jade Void Palace on Mount Kunlun. Since you have a karmic connection with me from a past life, how would it be if you became my disciple and learned the Tao?" Ziya bowed twice and said, "This is also the lifelong wish of this humble one." The Lord of Heaven breathed out energy from his mouth to raise a cluster of clouds, gave Jiangsang a ride, and in an instant, they arrived at the Jade Void Palace. Ziya looked around and saw that the grandeur of the jeweled palaces and jade terraces was not something seen in the human world. Ziya stayed there and cultivated the profound Taoist learning, mastering the magic to support the heavens and govern the earth, and the strategies to save the world and comfort the people. One day, the Lord of Heaven sat on the 8 treasures cloud light seat and ordered the white crane boy, saying, "Call your martial uncle Jiangsang." The white crane boy went to the peach orchard and invited Ziya, saying, "Master is calling for you." Ziya arrived before the place he used to look at from the pond and bowed prostrate. The Lord of Heaven said, "How many years has it been since you came up to Mount Kunlun?" Ziya replied and said, "Your disciple came up at 32, and now I have become 72. The Lord of Heaven said, "You have met the time for your 40 years of study. Now the king of Shang is unprincipled, so his energy and luck are exhausted, and the Zhou dynasty will flourish in the future. You must go down the mountain, help the Zhou, save the people who have fallen into misery, become a general yourself, and receive human wealth and honor." Ziya reported and said, "Your disciple has no will for the wealth and honor of the dusty world and only wishes to cultivate the great Tao." The Lord of Heaven said, "Your destiny is like this, so do not disobey it and go down the mountain quickly." Ziya was reluctant and did not leave, so the old man of the South Pole said, "Ziya, it is difficult to meet the opportunity, and you cannot afford to lose the time. Moreover, the heavenly mandate is already set, so it is difficult to escape. Although you go down the mountain now, after you achieve merit in the future, there will naturally be a day for you to return to the mountain." Ziya had no choice but to pack his belongings, bid farewell to the Lord of Heaven, parted with his Taoist friends, left the Jade Void Palace, and went down the mountain, thinking, "I originally have no brothers or wife and children, so where shall I go in the future? It is like a bird that has lost the forest has no single branch to roost on." He hesitated. Suddenly he thought, "I will find Song Ai In, a sworn brother of mine, and rely on him." He performed the earth escape technique and arrived at the Song family manor, 35 Li outside the south gate of Zhaogi. Green willows were hanging in front of the gate. Ziya sighed and said, "The scenery is the same as before, but the human affairs are not like the old days." He went forward and knocked on the door. Song Ai came out and was greatly delighted, saying, "Worthy brother, there has been no news for 40 years. Where have you been during that time?" Ziya told the full story of being on Mount Kunlun. Ayin held his hand, went into the rear hall, drank wine all day long, and said, "Worthy brother, since you have learned Taoist magic, you must know the affairs of sages. Among the sins of men, having no offspring is the greatest. Since worthy brother has not taken a wife until this old age, I will act as a matchmaker for worthy brother." Ziya said, "I am 70-odd years old. How can I have the intention of taking a wife?" Ayin said, "Although you are old, if you have no children, what will you do about the Jiang family line?" Ziya waved his hand and said, "Let us discuss this matter later." The two people drank wine until late and slept. The next day, Ayin went to the Ma family manor, saw Squire Ma, and said, "I, your nephew, have come to make a match for your daughter." Squire Ma said, "What kind of person is he?" Ayin said, "This person is from Heiju in the East Sea. His surname is Jiang, his name is Sang, and his style name is Ziya. He is the same age as your nephew and is a man of talent in this generation." The squire was greatly delighted and said, "Could there be anything wrong in the words of a wise nephew? I will have the ceremony performed quickly." Ayin gave 40 taels of white gold as betrothal gifts, returned, brought Ziya, and said, "I have engaged you for the sake of worthy brother." Ziya said, "Whose daughter is she?" Ayin said, "She is the daughter of my uncle Ma Hong. She possesses both wealth and beauty, so it is for the sake of worthy brother. Choose a good day quickly and tie the knot." Ziya gave thanks, chose a day, and got married. At this time, Ma's age was 18. After Ziya took Ma as his wife, he always lamented failing to achieve the great Tao on Mount Kunlun and spent his time sighing. Ma said, "My lord, what worries do you have?" Ziya said, "Since I am in Brother Song's house, I do not enjoy wasting food and clothes in vain." Ma said, "Try doing some business." Ziya said, "Originally I know nothing, but when I was in the mountain, I only learned how to weave large bamboo baskets." Ma said, "I hear that even making straw shoes earns dozens of taels a month. If you make large bamboo baskets now, you will earn 100 gold each month. Cut bamboo in the back garden, weave baskets, and go to the capital to sell them." Ziya wove baskets, carried them into the capital city, and walked around all day, but could not sell a single one. When the day grew dark, he returned home and said to Ma, "You considered my staying at home in leisure as useless and told me to weave baskets and sell them, but I walked around all day and could not sell a single one. I am hungry and my shoulders and waist hurt, so I cannot go any more." He threw the baskets onto the ground. Ma said, "This is a vessel that everyone uses themselves, but you could not go around well and sell them, and instead you vent your anger on me?" They argued with each other. Ayin heard this, came out hurriedly, and asked, "I do not know. For what matter are husband and wife arguing?" Ziya told him about going around to sell baskets. Ayin said, "Even if you couple had 30 family members, I would feed you, so do not argue." Ma said, "Brother-in-law's words are well-intentioned, but I fear that later we couple will have our hands tied and starve to death." Ayin said, "Sister-in-law, what kind of talk is this? I have plenty of buckwheat at home, so if you make noodles from tomorrow and sell them, it will be better than baskets." He led Ziya to the rear hall, poured wine, and urged him to drink. The next day, Ziya made noodles, took them, entered the capital, and went around inside the 4 main gates, but not a single person asked for them. He came back out through the south gate, and as the sun was setting and his shoulders and waist hurt, he put down the noodles and rested. At this time, King Wucheng Huangfeihu, who had conquered the southeast feudal lords, was training his soldiers and returning. The soldiers were all exhausted, and seeing the noodles, he took Ziya and said, "We have returned victorious until late, so our hunger and thirst are severe. We will eat 1 bowl each." Ziya saw that they were hungry and reluctantly gave them the noodles, when suddenly a gale arose from the sky and dust became thick. Ziya said, "Dust has gotten into the food, so you all should stop eating and go." Those fellows got angry and overturned the noodle bowls, so Ziya's whole body was covered in noodles. Ziya was afraid of those fellows' anger, so he barely gathered the bowls, carried them, and returned. Ma came out to meet him and asked, "How much profit did you make today?" Ziya scolded and said, "Because of you, I have only labored in vain." Ma said, "Selling noodles is easy, but you failed to make a profit, and instead you scold me?" Ziya said, "I walked around inside the city all day but could not sell a single bowl, and on the way back I lost it all to the soldiers who were training, and also met a gale, and it was all blown away. It is all because of your ill luck." Hearing these words, Ma flew into a rage, rushed in, slapped Ziya's cheek, and said, "You did the business wrong, and instead you resent me. You call a rice bag a Taoist of the world and ruin my life." Ziya was greatly enraged and said, "How dare a lowly woman insult a man?" They fought, and the 2 people became a tangled lump and rolled. Song Ayin and his wife, Lady Sun, came out, stopped them, and said, "For what matter are you fighting like this?" Ziya told the whole story of his anger. Ayin said, Even if you sell that noodle, the price is not much, so do not fight and let us eat wine. He led Ziya's hand, entered the rear hall, and offered wine. Ayan immediately entered the city, arranged a house, invited Ziya, and named the fortune-telling shop Myeongguan. Indeed, many people came and asked about good and bad luck, and he matched the past and future affairs miraculously. One day, a woodcutter carried wood and asked, "They say the teacher is miraculously effective, so where should I go carrying this wood to sell it well?" Ziya looked for a while and said, "Today you have food luck, so if you go to such and such place, an old man standing under a willow tree by the roadside will say, 'Let's buy the wood. Take you with him, and you will eat wine and rice to your fill and receive a heavy price.'" Those left and right considered it all in vain, and the woodcutter also did not believe it, carried the wood, and went gradually, when suddenly under a willow tree, indeed, an old man was there and called out, saying, "That person carrying wood, come here and sell it." The woodcutter went forward, and the old man said, "I intended to buy wood and waited here, but since there was no wood worth buying, I was about to go back, but now I have met you, so how can I haggle over the price? Let's go to my house," and took him back to the house, and the old man went inside. The woodcutter put down the wood, sat, and waited, and after a while a boy brought out wine and food, gave them to him, and said, "Our master told you to eat this wine and food and wait." The woodcutter sighed and said, "Teacher Jiang is indeed a divine man," ate the wine and rice to his fill, and sat, and after a while the old man came out, gave him money, and said, "Although the price is small, sell it and go." But when he received and looked at the money, it was an extremely heavy price. He thanked the old man and came straight to Ziya, and Ziya smiled and said, "How was my prediction?" The woodcutter bowed his head and said, "The teacher is a god, so I wish to become a disciple and learn high magic," and offered the money for selling the wood, but Ziya did not accept it. Because of this, hearing the holy rumor, people from far and near each found the door and came to ask about their fortunes. And since there was nothing Ziya did not match, people gathered like clouds, and in half a year, the money reached 300,000 taels. The Ayan couple and Ma rejoiced and said, "This person is truly a divine man. How can we match him?" At this time, the jade stone Pipa spirit guarding the Xuanyuan tomb was returning from spying on affairs in the Shang King's palace, and seeing many people gathered inside the south gate asking Ziya about fortunes, it changed its body to become a young woman, went forward in front of Ziya and said, "Teacher, please divine my fortune." Ziya examined and saw that the appearance was mixed, and it was definitely a monster. So thinking, "I will get rid of the monster and lessen the harm to people," he said to the woman, "I will see your fortune too, but first let's see your palm lines." The Pipa did not know the trick and held out one hand, and Ziya grabbed the hand and said, "How do you try to deceive me?" The Pipa knew it had fallen into the trick, feared, and said, "I am a young woman, so why does the teacher not let go of my hand?" The people who were on the left and right said, "Teacher Jiang is an old elder, so why does he harass a young woman?" Ziya said, "You, do not say many words. How could I not know propriety and be rude? I intend to kill this monster and remove the future trouble for all people." The crowd shouted at once and said, "This woman is clearly a human, so why does the teacher call her a monster?" Ziya thought, "If I let this monster live and send it away, it will become a future trouble, so I will kill and get rid of it," and picked up an inkstone, struck the monster's head, and blood gushed out and it died. Ziya calculated, "This monster has feigned death, so if I let go, it will surely run away," and holding the monster's hand, facing the crowd, said, "Gentlemen, do not make noise but watch me dispose of the monster." But the crowd shouted and said, "Teacher Jiang coveted beauty and killed a young woman." So in an instant, thousands of people gathered. Just then Prime Minister Bi Gan passed by, and the people reported this reason to the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister was greatly enraged, ordered the killer to be arrested, and asked, "For what reason do you kill a person?" Ziya said, "This is not a human but clearly a monster, so I intended to kill it to avoid disaster for the people of the world." The Prime Minister said, "If you have already killed it, you do not let go of the corpse. What is the meaning?" He replied and said, "This is a 1,000-year-old spirit, so it is not completely dead, but a feigned death. So if I let go, it will transform and run away. And also, even if I go to the court, I intend to prove it, so I do not let go." The Prime Minister heard Ziya's dignified appearance and fluency in speech, doubted in his heart, and ordered the people, "Bring the criminal to the Meridian Gate. I will report to the Son of Heaven and decide." He entered the Meridian Gate and requested an audience. And the king said to enter. So the Prime Minister advanced in front of the star-picking tower and reported to the king, "Your subject was entering through the south gate, and since they said an old fortune-telling sorcerer killed a young woman, your subject could not govern it privately and reports it." Before the king could answer, Daji reported and said, "Hearing the Prime Minister's report, one should know the root of the dead person and clarify the national law." The king said, "My wife's words are correct," and immediately called the person who killed, and Ziya, holding the monster's corpse with one hand, arrived at the star-picking tower and bowed his head and paid respects. The king said, "What is your surname?" Ziya reported, "My surname is Jiang, and originally I lived in the land of Heiju in the East Sea. But early on I bid farewell to the world, followed a Taoist in the mountains, and learned yin-yang fortune-telling, so I was divining the fortunes of the people inside the south gate. Suddenly a woman came and asked me to see her fortune. But when your subject looked, she was not a human, but definitely a monster. So wishing to lessen the disaster for the people of the world, I struck and killed her with an inkstone." The king said, "That woman's face is clearly a human, so why do you call her a monster?" Ziya said, "Your subject will make you see the monster's original form, so if you give me firewood, naturally its original form will appear." The king ordered the left and right to bring firewood, and Ziya took off the monster's clothes, attached a talisman to its chest, placed it on the firewood, and set fire to it. And although the flames filled the sky, that monster's flesh did not burn, and its skin color did not change at all. The king said to Ziya, "That flame is so vigorous, yet the monster's flesh does not burn, so it is clearly a monster. You quickly make its original form appear." Ziya took out 3 fire beads from his sleeve, threw them into the fire, and helped the fire's power, and since those beads were fire born from the essence of the sun and moon, how could the monster escape? The monster rose and said, "I have no enmity with you, so why do you burn me to death in fire?" Screaming like a thunderclap, and revealed its original form, and it was a pipa made of jade stone. The king rejoiced, but Daji felt as if her heart was collapsing and calculated in her mind. "That Jiang Ziya found out the pipa's original form, so soon he will harm me. I will promote this fellow to a high rank and kill him later to remove future trouble." And she reported to the king and said, "If you bring up that jade stone pipa and give it to your concubine, I will put new strings on it, tune the melody, and please your majesty's will, and also grant a title to Jiang Ziya and mark his merit." The king nodded, immediately ordered the attendants to bring up the pipa and give it to Daji, and Daji fed it a revival pill and made it her companion. The king appointed Jiang Ziya as lower grand master and put him in charge of the Directorate of Astronomy. So Jiang Ziya bowed in thanks for the heavenly grace, returned to Song In's house, rejoiced together with Ayin and Ma, and came back to the capital city. To speak of another matter, Daji thought of avenging the jade stone pipa and reported to King Zhou, saying, "The palace is desolate, so build the deer tower, set up a Yaoqi feast, and make the heavenly officials and fairies of the upper world descend to enjoy singing, dancing, and elegance." King Zhou said, "Who shall do this work?" Daji said, "Jiang Ziya's talent is capable, so order this person." King Zhou immediately called Jiang Ziya and said, "I intend to see heavenly officials and fairies, so I intend to build the deer tower. You, sir, do not spare your toil but do the work," and took out a painting, blueprint, and showed it. When Ziya looked, the height was 49 feet, the pillars were all coral and agate, and the walls were all jade stone. So if the building were completed, it would waste the national treasury and torment the people. Ziya reported and said, "If you intend to do this construction, even if it takes 35 years, it will not be finished. This is wringing the lifeblood of the myriad people of the world, so I prostrate and hope your majesty will withdraw it." King Zhou heard this, was greatly enraged, and said, "Do you delude the people with wicked words?" and ordered the warriors to kill him with the powwow punishment, burning copper pillar. Ziya hurriedly dodged his body and threw himself under the Nine-Dragon Bridge. King Zhou saw this and thought he had fallen into the water and died, and did not doubt it. Ziya used the water escape technique underwater, and returned home. Ma asked, "Why do you come early today?" Ziya said, "Jiang Ziya has resigned from office and come. King Zhou is unprincipled and intends to build the deer tower and torment the people, so I remonstrated, almost died, and fled. Let us go to the land of Shichi and wait for the time." Ma was greatly enraged and said, "When I told you to take office, you did not, and now you intend to abandon office and leave your hometown? I dislike it, so you go alone." Ziya said, "Although we are destitute today, in the future, our wealth and honor will be supreme, so please let us go together." Ma did not listen and asked for a divorce paper. Ziya reluctantly wrote the document and gave it to her, and Ma accepted it and went. Ziya packed his belongings alone and was going to Shiki. When he arrived at Lindong Pass, hundreds of people were lying on the road crying. Ziya asked them. The people answered and said, "Chong Ho-hu says he is building the deer tower and catches us to make us do labor. We could not endure it and intended to flee, but the gate is blocked and there is no way to go, so we are waiting for death." Ziya pitied them, used magic, grabbed soil, and scattered it into the void. A cluster of clouds rose, carried all the people, and set them down in the land of Shichi. To speak of another matter, Ziya parted with Ma and went to the land of Shichi. Arriving at a place 35 li outside the south gate, the name was Pangxi. The mountains and streams were strange and the scenery was good, so Ziya built a thatched cottage there, called himself Flying Bear, and sat by the Wei River every day casting a fishing line, but the hook was straight and had no bait. One day there was a woodcutter, his surname was Wu, and his name was Ji. He saw Ziya and asked, "Why does the old man not use a bent hook, but use a straight hook?" Ziya said, "I do not intend to catch fish with a bent thing, but intend to catch a person with a straight thing. If you enter the city today, you have a bad luck of striking and killing a person, so please do not fight with people." Wuji laughed and did not believe it, entered the city, and while selling firewood, argued over the price and struck and killed a person by mistake. The officials caught him and presented him to King Wen, and King Wen said to lock him in jail. Wuji wept sadly, so King Wen asked, "Why do you cry?" Wuji answered, "There is a 70-year-old mother at home, but there is no one to support her, so I cry." King Wen released him with a benevolent heart and said, "Return to your house, bid farewell to your mother, and come." Wuji returned and wailed with his mother. Wuji suddenly thought of teacher Jiang's words, hurriedly went to find him, and begged him to save his life. Ziya said, "You did not listen to my words and reach this state, but your filial piety is utmost, so I will save you. Dig a pit behind the house, lie inside it at night, have your mother light a lamp, cook rice, and call you, then you will avoid the misfortune." So Wuji did exactly that. King Wen interpreted the hexagram, and since Wuji's destiny appeared as dead, he did not look for him again. After that, King Wen dreamed at night, and a wild beast with wings entered the bedroom. He woke from sleep and asked his subject San Yisheng, "This is a flying bear. It is like the omen of King Tang of old obtaining Yi Yin, so it is certainly an omen of obtaining a wise man." King Wen was pleased, went out hunting by the Wei River, met Wu Ji again, and Wu Ji reported the reason he did not die was teacher Jiang's magic. King Wen considered it strange, went to the Wei River to find him, and saw Ziya. A white-haired old man was sitting with a fishing line cast, and his appearance was extraordinary. King Wen knelt and asked to serve him as a teacher, so Ziya boarded the carriage and returned to the capital city together. Thus King Wen made Ziya the grand preceptor and called his Titai, Tale Taegong Wang. To speak of another matter, the concubine of the West Palace, Lady Huang, was the sister of King Wucheng, Huang Feihu, and King Wucheng's wife, Lady Jia, was a modest and virtuous lady. On the New Year's Day festival, Lady Jia entered the palace according to etiquette to see her sister-in-law, concubine Huang, and pay her respects. Daji knew this and tricked King Zhou, saying, "King Wucheng's wife, Lady Jia, is said to be a peerless beauty under heaven, so your majesty should see her once to comfort King Wuchang's hard work." King Zhou considered those words right, prepared a drinking party at the star-picking tower, and invited Lady Jia. Concubine Huang told Lady Jia, "Since the national mother calls, you cannot help but go," so they ascended the star-picking tower together. King Zhou saw Lady Jia's beauty, his lust was aroused, and he forcibly offered wine and tried to get close. Lady Jia straightened her expression and answered, saying, "Your subject's husband, Wang Feihu, has struck east and conquered west for your majesty, and his merit is like a mountain. Yet does your majesty abandon the propriety of a ruler and intend to humiliate a subject's wife?" Saying this, she threw her body and fell below the star-picking tower and died. Concubine Huang saw this sight, was greatly enraged, grabbed Daji's hair, and scolded King Zhou, saying, "You foolish ruler, you listened to the words of a wicked wench and killed a loyal subject's wife, so the state is in peril." King Zhou was greatly enraged, grabbed concubine Huang, and threw her below the pavilion, so she also fell and died. At this time, King Wucheng was sitting in his mansion waiting for Lady Jia, when a maidservant came crying and reported, "Madam and Lady Huang both fell from the star-picking tower and died." Feihu heard these words, fainted, woke up, wailed loudly, and said, "King Zhou is unprincipled and killed my innocent wife and sister, so how can I stay still?" Immediately he called the family generals Huang Ming, Zhou Ji, Long Huan, Wu Qian, and others to discuss. Everyone said, "Now the Shang dynasty's luck is exhausted, so it is appropriate to go to King Wen of Shiqi, where wise men are, and entrust ourselves." Feihu thereupon led his headquarters and family, left Zhaoge, broke through the 5 passes, and headed for Shiqi. He defeated the troops of Grand Preceptor Wen Zhong who were pursuing him and arrived in the land of Shiqi. Taegong knew beforehand, came out to meet him, comforted him, and accepted him. King Wen was pleased and invested Feihu as the opening kingdom King Wucheng, so Shiqi's national power became even stronger. To speak of another matter, General Li Jing of Chentang Pass had 3 sons early on. The eldest was Jinja, the second was Muja, and the third was Nezha. Nezha became a disciple of Tai Zhenren and learned magic, when one day his master called him and said, "Your martial uncle Jiang Ziya is in danger in Shiqi, so go down quickly and save him." Nezha rode the windfire wheels, held a spear, and headed for Shiqi. At this time, the Shang general Zhang Guifang led Feng Lin and came to attack Shiqi, provoking a battle. Ziya bid farewell to King Wen, led the army out of the city gate, and set up camp. Feng Lin drove his horse out and shouted, saying, "Rebel Jiang Sang, come out quickly and surrender." Ziya was greatly enraged and intended to respond to the battle, when suddenly a young general came down from the air and shouted, saying, "Enemy general, do not violate my martial uncle," and he lifted his spear and stabbed Feng Lin, so Feng Lin vomited black smoke from his mouth and fled. Nezha chased him, threw the universe ring, struck and killed Feng Lin, came before Ziya, bowed and said, "The little one is Li Jing's son Nezha, and I have received my master's order and come to help my martial uncle." Ziya was greatly pleased and had him stay in the army. After that, Grand Preceptor Wen again ordered General Deng Zhugong of Sanshan Pass to attack Shiqi, so Deng Zhugong came leading troops with his daughter Deng Chanyu. Chanyu had a talent for throwing stones, so many Shiqi generals were injured, and Ziya was worried. At this time, Tu Xingsun, a disciple of Zhu Liusun of Mount Kunlun, stole his master's treasure, descended the mountain, and became Deng Zhugong's vanguard. Tu Xingsun was short in height, but had a talent for traveling underground, disturbing Ziya's camp, so Ziya sent Yang Jian to invite Zhu Liusun and caught Tu Xingsun. Ziya intended to cut Tu Xingsun, but Zhu Liusun stopped him and said, "This child has a destiny with Deng Chanyu and will establish great merit, so forgive him." Ziya thereupon released Tu Xingsun and said, "You go, capture Deng Chanyu alive, and establish merit." Tu Xingsun went again to Deng Zhugong's camp, entered underground at night, captured Deng Chanyu alive, and brought her. Ziya married the 2 people and received the surrender of even Deng Zhugong, so Shiqi's prestige shook even more. To speak of another matter, the Prime Minister reported to King Wu and said, "Now the heavenly time has already arrived, so I desire that your highness raise an army, strike Zhaoge, and save the myriad people from misery." King Wu said, "As a subject, how can attacking the ruler be called right?" Ziya said, This is not attacking a ruler, but attacking a mere fellow. In the past, King Tang also struck King Jiya, so do not disobey the will of heaven. King Wu reluctantly made Ziya the Grand General, led the army, and arrived at Mengjin, and 800 feudal lords all gathered. Ziya led the feudal lords and set up camp at Muye, so King Zhou was greatly startled, led his army out, and opposed them. Ziya waved the flag, beat the drums, and encouraged the battle, so the Shang army was greatly defeated, and King Zhou had no choice but to flee to Zhaogui city. King Zhou sighed and said, "I did not listen to the words of sages early on, so what is the use of regretting now?" And he ascended the star-picking tower, wore clothes strung with pearls, set fire, jumped inside, and died. At this time, Daji, Chilsil, and the Pipa, the three monsters, saw King Zhou's defeat and were fleeing, when suddenly fragrant wind vibrated and Goddess Nuwa blocked the way and scolded them, saying, "You monsters, where are you going? I told you to help King Zhou and make him perish quickly, but why did you harm the people, kill loyal subjects, and do evil deeds?" She ordered the yellow turban strongmen to capture the three monsters and send them to Ziya's camp. So Ziya dragged them outside the south gate, cut off the heads of the three monsters, and hung them on a pole, so the myriad people considered it gratifying. To speak of another matter, Ziya escorted King Wu, entered Zhaogui, and settled the people, and King Wu ascended the position of Son of Heaven, so the feudal lords of the world all offered congratulations. King Wu enfeoffed Taegong as the king of Qi, and the remaining generals also each divided the land and were enfeoffed as feudal lords. When Taegong was going to Qi, he returned home in glory, so his dignity was brilliant, and people watching on the road formed mountains of people and seas of people. At this time, his former wife Ma heard the words that Taegong was becoming the king of Qi and coming. Her regret was too late, so she lay prostrate by the roadside, cried, and begged for her sin, saying, "Your concubine had ordinary eyes, so I did not recognize Taegong and mistreated you. So my sin is like a mountain, but think of the righteousness of husband and wife for one night, and please take me with you." Taegong ordered a servant to bring a bowl of water, poured it in front of Ma, and said, "If you put this water back into the bowl, I will take you." Ma cried and said, "How can I put back spilt water?" Taegong said, "Water once spilt cannot be put back, and a tie once severed a not be connected again, so you withdraw." Ma could not overcome her shame, withdrew, and hanged herself and died. Taegong arrived in Qi and practiced benevolent politics, so the country was peaceful and the people were at rest.